Hi, my name's Linda Geiser. I'm an ecologist with the U.S. Forest Service Air Resource Management Program in the Pacific Northwest region. And I've been using lichens as air quality monitors in this region for 20 years. And today I'm going to tell you about why lichens are useful air quality monitors and what types of pollutants we can measure and why we might want to measure them. So let's start off with why are lichens good air quality monitors? And we're out here in the field in the Columbia River Gorge and standing in front of a lovely oak tree which is loaded with lichens. And as you can see, there are a variety of lichens on this tree. And you can see different colors, different shapes, different forms. And each one of these is a different species and has its own sensitivity to air pollution. So some are very sensitive and some are tolerant. And by looking at the community, the overall community that's here, we can pinpoint this site along not only an air pollution gradient but also a climate gradient. So just to hone in a little bit more, we can see some of the different colors here. Can you see the white and gray, the little white and gray lichens and the yellow ones? And then we have ones that are more flat and ones that are more shrubby. Back there we have some big leafy brown lichens, the lung lichens, which are a good sign of good air quality. And we have some more pendant lichens here, more hair-like lichens, Usnea, that also is an indicator of good air quality. So based on all of the species that are here, we can say something about air pollution. The other thing that we can use lichens for is, or the other way we use them as air pollution monitors, is by looking at the concentrations of pollutants that have accumulated in them. So we can notice that these lichens are sitting out in the air. They must be getting everything they need to grow from the air. And so that's one major reason why looking at concentrations of pollutants in lichens or using lichens as lichen communities as indicators of air quality is much more clear-cut than using other types of plants or other types of ecosystem measurements, like looking at soils, for example, because they're growing here exposed to the air and they have no other source of nutrients. So if you measure levels of pollutants in lichens, you can say something about what's in the air. And in the case of the communities, the types of pollutants that we look at are sulfur and nitrogen containing air pollutants. And in the case of elemental analysis, we can look at those. Plus we can look at metals like cadmium or mercury or lead. And we can also look at some of the semi-volatile air pollutants like pesticides or polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons or PCBs, things that are partially volatile and then settle out again. So the reason you would want to be interested in all of this is because knowing the air quality tells you something about the vulnerability or the threats to the ecosystem. And the lichens are an early warning system. They are, if you look at the most sensitive components of the ecosystem and they're doing well, then you have fairly good confidence that air pollution is not affecting the site. However, if you see some problems with the lichens, then depending on the level of enhancement of the pollutants, you might start to see other components of the ecosystem being affected. So you might see other plants being affected, you might see metals accumulating in the wildlife, you might see acidification of the soil, changing soil chemistry. All of these things can follow as you get greater and greater amounts of air pollutants.